and welcome back to the Model Train Outsider, episode 12, where I'm talking a little bit about my station.
Hey, what about me? Come on, you gotta include me today, of all days.
No, I haven't forgotten you. I'm just trying to get straight to the show.
So stop your yapping. Show him what you've done. He's actually doing stuff. Show him what you've done. You're getting places.
Right, I know you're excited.
Come on, show him what you've done.
Really, not that much has been done, so just let me say what I want to say and then we'll get to the video, okay?
I try to push him. He just is a slow worker.
God. All right, so I posted a couple of short videos, the layout under construction, and this is going to be a slow process. I know there are guys out there that can lay 200 feet of track in a day. I go much slower, but I'm happy with where I'm at because I'm baby step moving along, and I'm kind of happy with it. In the previous two videos, I talked about using foam board. I by no way means want to convert the whole world to using foam board. It's just a trick I was introduced to put foam board across your whole table. They explained to me why. It made sense, and so I do it. I'm not here to convert the world. I know most of you with your standard tracks put the little cork laments underneath, and you're cool with it, and that's great. I'm not one to tell other people, this is what you should be doing. I just like the idea, and since I started using it, I'm happy with it. Results may vary, but if you're ever going to start a layout, think about it, test it out. You got nothing to lose. The only real negative to me is, as I'll show in part of the video, is if you lean on it a little too heavily or put something heavy on it, especially, let's say, a can of paint, and it's full, this one's empty, and you set that on, well, you're going to get the bottom outline on, especially if it has the ridges underneath. So you got to make sure you're not setting things like that on top of it until you're ready to put things on. But even those mistakes can be quickly covered over with whatever scenery, terrain, grasses you throw over it. So even the negative's not that negative. All right, so that's just a quick update. We did get the station in place, which may not sound like a big deal, but since it's been a dream of his and mine for 3 years, we're going to call it a success, and we'll call it a major advancement. Now it's to get all the ramps and inclines in, which I've never built before for model trains. I've done hills and that, but I always use plaster. In this case, I'm going to try something I've never tried before, which are these foam incline-decline braces, and then top those off with hopefully some sort of board, because C-track, and I could do a whole video on the pros and cons of C-track. This pre-bedded Miraculin track, it's not as flexible as Flexi-track, let's say, and getting it to go from one level to another on a slope, you really got to work with it to really get it to curve. But I see it done all the time, so obviously it can be done. All right, so we'll see you back at the next episode, and here's a couple of little update clips that I threw on as part of this.
Hi, well, today is January 4th, and I did put a second coat on the table. I just cleaned up some of those areas that just didn't seem as clear, and this is a much nicer coat. You can see that although it went on kind of shiny in the lights, and you'll have to excuse the blinking light here, one of my overhead LED lights has started blinking, and I'm going to have to probably yank it out and replace it. But anyhow, we've got a nice coat here. I moved all the buildings back over here so that the second coat on the other side could dry, but this really dried to a nice flat sheen. Now, in a couple of those add-on videos I talked about using foam board. Now, I'm using here, this is, they call it 1/4 inch. Actually, they call it 1/2 inch, but it's closer to a 1/4 inch foam board here. I talked about the positives. One of the negatives is if you look here, you get, if you're not careful where you're leaning, or you can get palm prints, anything heavy can collapse it. But even that negative is not that big a negative, because once you put your terrain or whatever on it, it's not going to show, or you can fill it in rather easily. And I think the positives outweigh the cons. So, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Also, just for the heck of it, was laying out some track to get an idea where I want my lanes to go. The overall running's not going to be much different than it was, but it's time to start. Been taking things off and tearing down. I got all the legs in, I got all the shelving in, everything's good. Now it's time to start adding stuff. Alright, it is the evening of January 5th. It's been sort of a long, crazy day. I intended to get a lot more work done down here, but my wife had to do some running this morning. When she came back, she said the garage door was messed up, and went out there, and we have an automatic garage door opener, and well, unfortunately, one of the springs had snapped, and that caused the whole system to go. So I spent most of today repairing a garage door. And to make matters worse, and as I was removing one of the other bracketing chains, the door slipped, and all that way to the door yanked my hand into a pulley, and I mangled my hand pretty good. Nothing broken, no serious cuts or anything, but my hand is pretty damn swollen right now, and makes it hard to do power tools. But anyhow, the good news, on to the good news. We've got the station in. This is maybe nothing minor, or maybe it is minor. For me, it's a huge deal, because I have waited years for this, but to finally have the station in place. I still have a couple little things to do from underneath. I have some wood blocks to support it. I'll be screwing some screws up from underneath to really lock it into place, hold the station into place. Most of this is going to be covered by terrain. Now, the Delmenhorst Station, as you guys have paid attention to in any of the videos, is a submerged station. You have ground level and it leads up, but for whatever reason, they ran the lines above the station, which then go off towards Osnabrück and Bremen, and slowly the ground rolls back down. But, you know, the city and everything's on the same level as the station, but the tracks run across it. Now, one of the issues when you're trying to do a 100% recreation of anything like this is you can't fit it in exactly. This is almost 6 feet long. This table is 11 and a half, roughly 11 and a half feet long, and this station is 6 feet long. And if I wanted to do a full 1/87 scale recreation, it would have been 9.5 feet long, at least. And one of the platforms would have been 9 feet long just to fit my trains in. Well, I can't do it. So, as I explained in a babbling video, you have to do compression. But the center hall is almost exact to scale. The frontage is actual 187. The depth, from front to back, is more like 195, and then the overall length is more like 1 to 100, 1 to 105, but that's just trying to fit things in. You know, you got all these different scales, but the height is accurate, is scale accurate, and the front fascia here, this area, is 187 scale accurate. So coming around the side here of it, you can see I've got the main platforms down and in. Those are in place. The tracks are not 100% installed yet. This is just to get an idea of the running line and the spacing, which I'm very happy with. These ends will eventually be covered up. I've got to put in the little bricks here to cover this up, but the platforms are in. They are down. There's got to be touch-ups. The seams have to be painted and touched up with a little bit of work, but it's just amazing to have them in. As we were installing, a couple little sections broke off. But this station is a true full station. For example, many people, when you have these two-level stations or what have you, they just have little pseudo steps going down, but this is 100% accurate. The steps actually go down. This thing is lit up, not right now because I haven't wired the lights. Well, I've wired the lights, but I haven't wired them to a power source. But I don't know if you can see, but they actually go down, and actually we already have passengers because typical German impatience. They're here wanting their train now. But the station is in place, the tracks are online, and over here, I think I showed already, I was measuring out the three lines that are gonna go around the table. I had 2 lines going completely around the table, now it's gonna be 3. And the only thing that's gonna be pseudo-realistic is this station. Everything else is just gonna be a train table with buildings and stuff. Over there I'll have my parking area and a larger hub station, a Hauptbahnhof in German, with my parking area. But I'll also probably have some scenic farmland. The river's going to go over here and I have to build some bridges. But everything on this station was 100% custom built by me. There's very little here that was actually out of even kit bashing. The only thing is like these stairs here from Walters and these handrails here I took out of a Walters upper level subway station thing. So these stairs fit in perfectly here. So why not use them? But everything else here I cut out of balsa wood, basswood, and cardstock, and made everything. The station itself, the buildings, all these windows, all this framing, that was all 100% custom made by me. The signs, obviously, on the buildings and shops, I printed up from photographs and put in the windows. But this is all, this siding here and the front siding, this is all 100% to scale. So this is quite for me, a big deal to actually see this. Obviously, there's nothing on the platforms yet. I've got a friend is making 3D printing up the support structures for the roof element that goes across, and then I just got to make all the little seating sections. And again, I am trying to find some models to bash. I don't want to make all that stuff. I do have a kit that has all the ticket booths and pop machines and that, so that'll save me having to try to custom make those. But that's the station, and here we're laying out, getting an idea of the curves, because obviously these will have to come up. But I use radius 4. I'd probably like to use radius 5, but so I use radius 4 on the 2 outer lines, and then I'll do a radius 3 on the inside going around. And the only place I'll use radius 2 is the branch offs to the parking area over here. I will use radius 2 curves to hook into the parking area, because you're going, when you're parking your trains, you're going at a slow enough speed that even the high-speed trains aren't going to have a problem with that. But that's where we're at right now. I don't know. My goal was to have the ramps and that installed by the time I went back to work tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen because of the time lost, the day plus I lost fixing a garage and screaming in pain with my hand. But otherwise, that's where we're at right now. I've got a custom build about 30 more buildings. Well, about 20 because I've already built 10. But I've got to build a giant city hall that goes here with the market square and some of the key buildings. And it's actually going to take me a couple of years to get there. I mean, I don't think in 2 years' time this table will be done as Delmenhorst, because I'll bounce back and forth, put in what I can. Once I get the track, I can build the big parking station over there, and then as I have time, I will start custom building these buildings. And for me to custom build, it's slow and tedious, much like this video, I'm sure. So anyhow, that's the update for now. Just waiting to bring some sense of order back to this chaos, but we're at a huge starting point now. All right.